What is going on, y'all? Gamers Goon here today with your Big 12 peaks and floors of every single team. Now, the Big 12 made it a little difficult on me on the next one because instead of doing team logos so we don't have to zoom in, they wrote out the names, so I got to be really zoomed in. So, yeah, I'm going to have to be like adjusting it as we go. So, there's that. We're going to start off with Arizona, and Arizona's up here at the top. Let me get my notepad ready. So Arizona, Hawaii, Weber State. You should probably win those two games. Hawaii might be a little difficult. They do have a good QB there at Hawaii. I think bare minimum though. Sorry, I had to plug in my laptop. Bare minimum though, you need to win two of your first three. K-State, probably a loss. So we're saying they're 2-3. Iowa State. Oklahoma State, BYU, Houston. Between Oklahoma State and Houston, you got to get at least one, so you're at 3 for your bare minimum. Colorado, Kansas, Cincinnati, you got to get at least one of those, so 4 is your bare minimum. Baylor and Arizona State, don't know if you're getting one. So here with Zona, I think their bare minimum is 4-8. Bare minimum is 4-8. Now let's look at games they could win. They're not going to beat K-State. They're not going to beat Iowa State. There's 2 losses. Oklahoma State, BYU. They're going to lose at least one of those 3. They're probably going to lose one in the Colorado stretch, so that's 4 losses. And they're probably going to lose at least one of the Baylor-Arizona State games. Probably the Baylor game they're going to win. So that's 5 losses. So they are, yet again, a 7-5 team at their peak, at least from what I am seeing. Except you never know with Noah Fafita at their QB. No Tet McMillan there anymore, though. So next is ASU. ASU, Northern Arizona, Mississippi State, Texas State. Probably 3-0 there, but we're gonna give them. We're gonna go on the err on the side of caution and say they're 2-1 out of those games. Mississippi State and Texas State could get a little tricky. I still like Arizona State over both of them, but bare minimum they're gonna be 2-1. Baylor, TCU, maybe they lose a game there between those two. It could be a little tricky. So there's 2 losses. Utah, Texas Tech, Houston, Iowa State. There might be 2 losses in there, so that's 4. West Virginia, Colorado, Arizona. Probably maybe 1 loss with Colorado or Arizona. I still like Arizona State over them. So I think bare minimum, they're 7-5. Arizona State bare minimum is 7-5. Now let's see what their maximum is. They're gonna win the first 3. I have pretty high confidence on. They probably could beat Baylor and TCU. Utah, Texas Tech, Iowa State. There's probably a loss in there somewhere, so we will say they have 1 loss. Yeah, I think 11-1 here is kind of where they could peak. I see maybe Texas Tech as a loss, maybe Iowa State as a loss. They might be able to win one of those 2 games. I don't think they win both. And if they do somehow win both, I could see them maybe drop into Colorado. So I think 11-1 is fair for like their absolute ceiling. Baylor is next. Baylor here. Auburn, probably a loss. Except there's some buzz around Baylor QB play. I think they have a good running back who I think is a sophomore there. Auburn SMU is a hard start to the season. Can't say there is a win, or I could see them going 0-2. I'm not going to say they're going to be 1-1. They need to go 1-1 out of that. I don't know if they will. Samford, that should be a win. Arizona State could get tricky. Oklahoma State, K-State. Okay, so I can say between Auburn, SMU, Arizona State, OK State, and K-State, they're going to win at least one of those games, right? They're going to be on the borderline of being a good team. I don't know if they'll be great and be able to knock off all of them. So right now they're at 2 wins. TCU, Cincinnati, UCF. You think they could probably win 2 of 3 there. So you're at 4 wins. Utah, Arizona, and Houston. You think you might be able to win 2, maybe Arizona and Houston there. So that gets you to 6. 6-6 for Baylor at the floor. Now let's look at Baylor's ceiling. Baylor, Auburn, SMU. I think best case scenario they go 1-1 here. So 1 loss, Samford to win. I think best case scenario they pick 2 of these 3: Arizona State, K-State, and OK State. So they're at 2 losses. TCU, Cincinnati, UCF, they could win. Utah, Arizona, Houston. I think 10-2. 10-2 is the ceiling here for Baylor. Um, Now let's get into BYU, who I really do like. Um, and I'll actually tell you guys. I might make a video on Friday. Me and my friends made a combined top 25. BYU was one of the teams I put in my top 25 officially. It's my official top 25. Um, BYU, you should win the first two. I'm not a big believer in Stanford. Eastern Carolina, Colorado, West Virginia. One of these games could get tricky. Maybe they lose one of them. Maybe. So we'll have one loss. Arizona, Utah, Iowa State. You probably lose at least one of those, probably to Iowa State. So 2 losses. Texas Tech, TCU, Cincinnati, UCF. There might be a loss in there between Texas Tech and TCU. I could see BYU being 9-3 at their floor. I'm really high on this BYU team, by the way, if you couldn't tell. Peak, though, what their highest is, I think they could get up. Maybe Iowa State and Texas Tech will be their two games right there that could trip them up. And actually, I don't think they win both. So I'm gonna say 9-3 and 11-1 is their peak. Next, we get to UCF. Jacksonville State, NC, A&M, or A&T, my apologies. North Carolina, K-State. This is a tricky path right here. UNC, K-State, Kansas, Cincinnati, West Virginia. I say at worst, they lose 2 of those games. Because this is UC. They might lose 3. We're going to say 3. At worst, they lose 3 of those games. Baylor, Texas Tech, OK State, BYU. Ooh, this final stretch. This final stretch is kind of scary if you're them. Because we said at worst they'll lose 3 in the UNC stretch. Baylor, they might lose 3 down the road as well. I can even see 4. Yeah, I'm gonna say 5-7 is their absolute floor. Now they do have a decent ceiling though. K-State's probably a guaranteed loss. We're not going to count that. I could see them winning most of these games. I think they could lose them, but best case scenario, right? I think they could maybe beat Baylor. Texas Tech and BYU get a little tricky. Even if they don't, they might drop it to Baylor, OK State. I think UCF 9-3 is kind of their ceiling. 9-3 there. Next, we get to Cincinnati. Not very high on. Nebraska is a possible win. I don't know if you can say that's a guaranteed win. They should be 2-1 after the first 3 weeks. Kansas potentially a win. Between Kansas, UCF, OK State, Baylor, you think you'd win at least 2 of them. So that gets you to 4. Arizona potentially is 5. I think, though, we're going to err on the side of caution and say their floor is 4-8. However, oh, wait, they do play TCU and Arizona. Maybe 5-7. 5-7 is their floor. 5-7. I didn't go all the way. They could definitely be 3-0. I don't think they beat Iowa State. I think they'll drop one of these OK State, Baylor, Utah games. At least 1, probably 2. But we're going to say 1, so they're at 2 losses. Zona, BYU, TCU, I think they drop at least 1. So their peak is 9-3. Not very high on Cincinnati, but they'll do. Next, Colorado. Georgia Tech, I can't say it's a guaranteed win. Delaware, Houston, Wyoming, you should be 3-1 at least. Even if you don't beat Houston, you should beat Georgia Tech. One of those games have to be a win for them. So 3, BYU, TCU, Iowa State. You'd like to get one of those, so that gets you to 4 wins. Utah, Arizona, West Virginia, you'd probably like to get 2 of those, so that gets you to 6. Arizona State, K-State, you probably want to get at least one of those. So I say there's Colorado, their floor should be 7-5. Now, I think they have a really high ceiling. they are playing without or with I don't know if the freshman QB is starting or if it's Caden Salter. I don't know if they're beating BYU. They're gonna, at best case scenario, I think they lose one of the BYU, TCU, Iowa State, so they're at one loss. Utah, Arizona, West Virginia, they could probably get through safely. Arizona State case, I think 10-2 is fair for their absolute peak. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna be rocking with Colorado that much, but we'll see. This is Houston. Houston's up. Houston is up. They start the season SFA. They should be 2-1. Bare minimum need to be 2-1. Oregon State, OK State, Arizona. You probably got to win a game there, so 3 wins. West Virginia, UCF, you're probably going to win 1, so 4. TCU, Baylor, I think 4-8. 4-8 for Houston's the bare minimum. However, once again, possible. Colorado, they could. I don't know if they could beat them. I'm gonna say Colorado is a loss. Texas Tech, OK State. Even if you don't give them Colorado or OK State, you can give them Colorado. They'll at least have 2 losses at this point. Arizona State, they're not going to beat West Virginia. TCU, you could chalk up as the loss there. So that gets you to 2, 3, 4, and they'll probably lose to Baylor 5. I'm gonna err on the side of caution and say 8-4 is their absolute peak. Their absolute peak for Houston. Next we get Iowa State, who I like. K-State, I do think will be a loss week 1, but a winnable game. So when we get there, we'll talk about it. Iowa's a losable game. I could see them starting the season off 2-2. You get 2 wins here in this 3-game stretch, so that gets you to 4. You could probably pick up at least 1 in this next stretch to get you to 5. Kansas and OK State, you could probably get 1 to get you to 6. So I think bare minimum here with Iowa State is 6-6. Now, best case, K-State, Iowa, one of those will be a loss probably. So we'll say 1. Colorado might be a loss, but best case scenario, right? Colorado, BYU, Arizona State. In that group, I think there's at least a loss. So we'll get you to 2 losses. Iowa State, kind of like Colorado, could be 10-2. Could be. Not that they will be. They could be. Next, we get to Kansas. Could be 3-0 to start the season. I'm going to err on the side of caution and say 2-1 in those first 3. You'd probably want to get 2 of your next games, so that gets you to 4. K-State, you probably want to get one of those to get you to 5. I'd say about 5 for Kansas is their bare minimum. 5-7. I really liked this Kansas team last year, but they underperformed, so got to err on the side of caution with them. Possible they win the first 3. I could see them winning all the way up till Texas Tech, so there's 1 loss. K-State, Arizona, Oklahoma State, there might be a loss in there, so there's 2. Iowa State and Utah, there's probably a loss in there to get you to 3. So 9-3 is Kansas's absolute peak this season. K-State is, I think they'll beat Iowa State. Either way, they should be 3-1 at minimum in this first stretch. This next stretch, you think maybe there's a loss between Baylor and TCU, so you win 2 of those, so you're at 2 losses. You like your bets. Texas Tech against Texas Tech, there might be 3 there with Texas Tech. Utah and Colorado might pick up 1, so I think 8-4 is a really good floor for Kansas State. I think they have a very good chance to win this conference, by the way. I think they beat Iowa State week 1. I could see them being undefeated there. I could see them being undefeated all the way up to this Texas Tech game. But I do think between Texas Tech, OK State, Utah, and Colorado, they might lose a game there. So they're another 11-1 potential team. Oklahoma State, Um, they're going to start off the season 1-1. I don't think they're beating Oregon. Between Baylor, Arizona, and Houston, they should probably win 2 of those games. So you're at 2 losses. You probably only lose to Texas Tech to get you to 3. K-State. I think K-State, though. Yeah, I think bare minimum here if you're Oklahoma State is probably you lose to Oregon, you could lose maybe to Baylor, Arizona. I don't know. You're gonna I want to say maybe like 7-5. 7-5 here for them is their bare minimum. Now let's look at their maximum. I don't think they're beating Oregon. I think they will lose the Texas Tech game. So there's 2. K-State's a game they're gonna lose. Iowa State. Wow. I have their absolute minimum at 7-5 and their maximum at 8-4. There's not a lot of wiggle room there with Oklahoma State. We'll see if they actually change anything, and change my mind this season. TCU is now up. They have a tricky schedule. You'd like to be 2-1 out of this first group, I think. I don't necessarily think it's a given. You'll be 1-2 potentially, though. You might get your second win here against either Arizona State or Colorado. You could probably get a third win here out of K-State, Baylor, and West Virginia. Iowa State, BYU, probably not winning. You might get a fourth between Houston and Cincinnati. I think 4 and 8 is their minimum. Sorry, TCU. The good news is TCU, I also think, has a solid ceiling. They just have a little bit of a tricky schedule. They could be probably 3-0. They could maybe beat SMU. TCU is getting buzz. I don't see them being Arizona State, but they could. We'll say they will in this scenario. Between Arizona State, Colorado, West Virginia, and Baylor, they probably lose 1. I don't think they're beating Kansas State. There was 2 in that group. Iowa State, BYU, they're going to lose at least 1. There's 3. I think 9-3 for TCU is their absolute peak. Texas Tech. Let's look at them. They should be 3-0 going up against Utah. Bare minimum, they need to be 3-0 going to Utah. Should be 3-1 after that stretch. Houston, Kansas, you should win. That gets you to 5. Oklahoma State, you should probably win. It gets you to 6. UCF is a must-win. West Virginia is a must-win. That gets you to about 7-5. Now, this is a team that has a lot of potential to go higher because this might be a 12-0. We'll see. They could beat Arizona State. They could beat K-State. They could beat Oklahoma State. They could beat BYU. As much as it pains me, this could be a 12-0 team. Could be. Not that they will be. They could be. Then we get to Utah, UCLA, Cal Poly, and Wyoming. You'd at least like to get 2 of those. Texas Tech, West Virginia. You'd like to at least have 3 of the first 5. Arizona State, BYU gets tricky. Colorado, you'd like to pick up 1 there. That gets you to 4. Cincinnati, Baylor, K-State, you'd like to pick up 1. That gets you to 5. Kansas, a game you want to win. I'm going to err on the side of caution for Utah, though, and say 5 and 7 is their bare minimum. Best case scenario for Utah, they win the first 3. Don't think they beat Texas Tech. If they do, they'll lose to West Virginia. So there's 4 wins. Arizona State, BYU, but Colorado, you might be able to get 2 of those. So there's, let's see here. We have 1 loss, 2 losses. Cincinnati, Baylor, K-State, Kansas, you'll say there. So Utah, potentially, best case scenario, 9-3. And then we're going to wrap it up here with West Virginia. They should be at least 2-0 going to Pittsburgh. They need to win 3 of their first 4. Utah and BYU can get tricky, so we're still at 3 wins. UCF, TCU, Houston, you'd probably like to win 2 of those to get you to 5. Colorado, Arizona State, Texas Tech. Don't know if you're going to beat any of them. So I think 5 and 7 here is the bare minimum for West Virginia. Best case scenario for West Virginia, though. Start off the season 4-0. Beat one of Utah, BYU to get to 5. UCF, TCU's wins to get to 7. Houston's a win to get to 8. Colorado's a win to get to 9. And you beat one of Arizona State and Texas Tech for 10. So this is West Virginia. 10-2 is their absolute maximum. So with that, there's no more, right? Yep, that's the end of it. So just like we've been doing, we're gonna go in and figure out who to watch out for as like the best floors teams. It looks like, me looking at this, it's gonna be BYU at number 1. It looks like after them, it is going to be Kansas State. Then we have a bunch of 7 and 5 teams. Colorado 10-2, Arizona State. Oh no, Texas Tech is next because they have the 12-0 potential. Texas Tech. And then it's going to be Arizona State. We have Oklahoma State still in there at 7 and 5. Colorado should be next. Yep, Colorado will be next with a potential 10-2. Then it's going to be Oklahoma State. Then we go to the 6-win teams because I think we're out of 7-win teams. Yep, we're out of the 7-win teams. It's going to be Baylor because they could be 10-2. Baylor. Iowa State. You could flip either of them, by the way. They're both potentially 10-2. 6 and 6. Any more 6 and 6s? No. We go to the 5 and 7s. UCF, Kansas, West Virginia's got to be here because they have 10-2 potential. Utah is there with the 9 and 3. Then I like Kansas a little more than UCF, so we're gonna put them first. Kansas, UCF. We get to the 4 and 8s. Cincinnati is in there as well. Yeah, Cincy is here. Then we get to the 4 and 8s. TCU I like a lot more. TCU. Then we got Houston, and we have Zona left, and I have Houston as better potentially than Arizona. All right, so our rankings are BYU, Kansas State, Texas Tech, ASU, Colorado, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Iowa State, West Virginia, Utah, Kansas, UCF, Cincinnati, TCU, Houston, and Arizona. There you have it. Those are the Big 12's floors and ceilings. Thank you for watching, and tune in tomorrow for the SEC. On Friday, we are going to be predicting Week 0. We're going to also, on Week 0, talk about my top 25 that me and a group of friends came up with. So, stay tuned for those. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.